Now at 5, cars line up to get students tested for COVID in Pittsburgh.
President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris head to Atlanta to reignite a push for sweeping voting rights legislation. I'm Skylar Henry on Capitol Hill with the administration's message and the hurdles here in Washington in their way.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The Pittsburgh School District is testing students who've come in contact with a COVID positive person on campus, but not all parents say it's worth the time. This is KOAM News at 5. The parking lot at Pittsburgh Middle School was lined with rows of cars, all with students needing to be tested for COVID-19. Kids who are tested at the school can either return home with a positive test or return to the class with a negative.
Because we were there for 2+ hours in the line. It was awful. There was 5 lines going, and at that point I was like, in like 30 minutes she's going to be having lunch and then school's going to be over, so why are we doing this?
We're going to hear more about the district's test to stay plan tonight at 6. Authorities charge a woman with attempted murder for stabbing her boyfriend in Arma, Kansas. On Saturday, officers were called to the 700 block of South 4th Street by a man claiming to have been stabbed by his girlfriend, Kristen Kramer. When officers arrived, they found a man with multiple stab wounds from a kitchen knife. He survived. Police arrested Kramer at the scene. She's now charged with second-degree attempted murder and aggravated battery. We're learning more about the circumstances surrounding the Sunday shooting death of a teenager in Joplin. Todd Mays is in custody, charged with the first-degree murder of his 17-year-old daughter. The Jasper County coroner says the victim's name is Prayer Nicholson. However, friends and family knew her as Prayer Waddell. The shooting happened at a home on South Connor in Joplin. A police report indicates the suspect and victim got into a verbal argument on the upper floor and that the girl threw a glass bottle at Mays. They say Mays went downstairs, got a handgun, then confronted his daughter on the staircase, shot her once in the abdomen. She died at the hospital. Nick Kelly joins us now with a first look at the weather.
And we stay pretty quiet once again down. Temperatures had no problem warming back up underneath mostly sunny skies. We're still seeing plenty of that, by the way, from the east side of Joplin. Looking across the rest of the region, though, we're not looking too bad, at least to start the evening out. Can't help but notice cloud cover picking up across central and northwestern parts of Kansas. That's due to an upper level wave passing across the upper Midwest, but it's strong enough. It's going to bring some of that cloud cover our way overnight, but that's the worst our sky conditions will get as we go deeper into our Tuesday evening and even into tomorrow morning. For now, temperatures mainly lower to middle 50s, most of us between 53 and 55. A good rebound today with that southwest wind still up there at 5 to 15 miles per hour. But eventually we're going to fall down to 50 by 6 o'clock, through the 40s this evening, and most of us down to the 30s again for tonight. We're quiet for the next few days now, but sticking with Doug's pattern when I'm watching his system by the weekend. We'll track that here in a bit.
See you then. President Biden and Vice President Harris traveled to Atlanta, Georgia to make the case for Senate passage of voting rights legislation. At least 19 states, including Georgia, have passed 34 laws making it more difficult for people to vote since the 2020 presidential election. Skylar Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
The fight for democracy took center stage in Atlanta, Georgia, as President Biden pushed for passage on key voting rights bills.
For the right to vote and to have that vote counted is democracy's threshold liberty. Without it, nothing is possible, but with it, anything is possible.
One measure would update the 1965 Voting Rights Act and force states with a history of discrimination to clear any potential changes to election laws with the Justice Department.
There is nothing normal about a law that makes it illegal to pass out water or food to people standing in long voting lines.
Another would establish national election standards by, among other things, requiring all 50 states to offer at least 2 weeks of early voting. President Biden has signaled he's ready to change Senate rules to allow the voting rights bills to pass with a simple majority, without Republican support. But at least 2 moderate Senate Democrats, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, remain opposed to changing the filibuster rules, while Republicans say the move goes too far.
It protects a member of the Senate who represents a minority view or needs additional information before agreeing to proceed.
Some voting rights advocates have also expressed concerns President Biden isn't moving fast enough.
What we really want to see, given that he came down here, is that he's got an ironclad deal in place.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is expected to force a vote on the filibuster issue on the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday next Monday. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Some voting rights advocates boycotted President Biden's speech. Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams also missed the event, citing a scheduling conflict. South Korea and Japan say North Korea has fired what appeared to be a ballistic missile into its eastern sea. The launch came as the UN Security Council met in New York to discuss that country's growing weapons threat. North Korea hasn't tested any long-range missiles that could directly threaten the U.S. since 2017. New coins featuring prominent women in U.S. history have begun shipping out to banks this week. The coins feature poet and civil rights leader Maya Angelou, the first black woman to appear on the U.S. quarter. The Mint's program will issue 20 quarters over the next 4 years, honoring women and their achievements in shaping our nation's history. Additional honorees in 2022 will be physicist and first woman astronaut Sally Ride and Wilma Mankiller, the first female principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. Still ahead, some of the most desirable jobs.
Quit your job and looking for something new? I'm Naomi Ruckham with a list of top jobs for 2022, including careers in tech and healthcare.
And next in Healthwatch, a man receives the genetically modified heart of a pig. Topping today's Healthwatch, a medical first in the operating room as surgeons from the University of Maryland Medical Center transplanted a genetically modified pig heart into a 57-year-old man. His advanced heart disease made him ineligible for a human organ. Dr. Tara Narula has more on how the experimental surgery was done.
He simply didn't want to die, doesn't want to die.
Patient David Bennett, a Maryland handyman and father, is awake and recovering days after a 7-hour surgery to replace his heart with that of a genetically modified pig.
This pig heart has performed so far very well, even beyond our expectations.
When Bennett arrived at the University of Maryland Medical Center, he was dying and ineligible for a human transplant because of the severity of his heart disease and medical history.
My dad's prognosis early on was very, very, very bad.
His son said Bennett agreed to the experimental procedure despite a slim chance of success.
This was his best hope of getting out of the hospital and having somewhat of a normal quality of life.
He said, I don't want to die. And he said, if I do, maybe you'll learn something to help others.
Although it's too soon to know the long-term success of the surgery, doctors say it can offer hope to similar patients.
There are hundreds and thousands of people all around the world who are waiting for the organ, and unfortunately, just like this patient, may not qualify for an organ transplant.
There have been prior attempts to transplant an animal organ into a human, including baby Faye in 1984, who lived with a baboon heart for 3 weeks. But those have failed because the body rejects the organ rapidly. This time, the pig that supplied the heart went through gene editing to remove cells thought to be responsible for rejection.
We're learning a lot every day with this gentleman, and so far, we're happy with our decision to move forward. And he is as well. A big smile on his face today.
Dr. Tara Narula, CBS News, New York.
Researchers say long-term exposure to air pollution may heighten the risk of COVID-19 infection, especially for people 55 and older. The study, published in the journal Occupational and Environmental Medicine, found particulate matter like dust, soot, and smoke is the biggest concern because long-term exposure to air pollution can lead to inflammation and compromised immunity. Secondhand vaping is linked to respiratory problems in young adults, according to research in the journal Thorax. Scientists studied California teens exposed to secondhand nicotine vaping in their homes and found they were 40% more likely to report symptoms like a persistent cough or bronchitis and 53% more likely to have shortness of breath when compared to teens who had not been exposed. And there's more evidence that olive oil is a good ingredient for our health. Scientists say consuming a half tablespoon of olive oil or more per day may lower the risk of death from heart disease, cancer, and neurodegenerative diseases. The decades-long study in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found replacing butter, mayonnaise, or dairy fat with olive oil could have similar benefits. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, we're going to check out some of the most desirable jobs of the year.
But first, we are going to keep chilly but dry for the next few days. Then things are going to be interesting by the weekend. We'll break down the forecast next. Our Tuesday has not been a bad one so far. We kept things quiet to start the morning out, and we kept things pretty quiet as we continue throughout this late Tuesday afternoon and just about knocking on the door of our Tuesday evening. You can see the live look from Indigo Sky just outside of Seneca, Missouri, showing mostly sunny skies, not just at that part of the 4 states, but all across the area. And that did help us out with temperatures once again today. We had highs pushing to the mid to even upper 40s the other day, a good rebound after we started in the mid-teens yesterday morning. Upper 20s to lower 30s this morning, and then pushing into the upper 50s this afternoon. So these are the kind of temperatures that'll stick with us at least for the next few days while we stay dry as well. But sticking with Doug's pattern, our system for Friday and Saturday is still on the way with rain and snow chances to keep an eye on. Then we're going to dry out again, keep quiet as we go into early next week with, again, a little bit of a bump down in temperatures once that system clears out. For the time being, no threatening weather whatsoever. We just have sunny skies as far as the eye can see. 53 in Joplin, the south wind at 14, gusting to 22. It's not going to give us a wind chill yet, but as we drop into the 40s, that gusty wind might bring a bit of a bite to the air as we get the evening underway. But for now, everyone's ranging from the lower to middle 50s in southwestern Missouri, and then from the mid 50s to about 60 across our corners of Kansas and Oklahoma. Again, all due to mostly sunny skies that we have seen all day, and a south wind at times pushing 10 to 20 miles per hour. We back down on that breeze a little bit, between 5 and 15 miles per hour. That's going to do its best to keep us in the 40s overall as we go throughout the course of the evening, but we are going to have to see lows settle back into the lower 30s across much of southeast Kansas, and then mainly lower to middle 30s elsewhere, especially around Joplin. Quiet skies is what we've seen all day long, but a wider look at things showing a little bit of cloud cover working in from central and western parts of Kansas, not because of anything at the surface. There's like a weak boundary that was trying to change the wind around, but we're going to keep mainly that southerly wind in play for tonight and even for tomorrow. What's driving in the cloud cover, though, is a weak wave passing across the upper Midwest. That's what's bringing the cloud cover in. Fortunately, there's not much else to go along with it. So, yeah, the cloud cover will bounce between partly and mostly cloudy overnight going into Wednesday morning, but that's all it's going to do. No rain chances to worry about, but definitely plan on a cold start with overnight lows at least around Joplin, dropping back to about 36 degrees. We'll hold on to partly sunny skies throughout the day, but that southwest wind will kick us back to 51 by noon. I'm expecting highs around 56 for downtown Joplin. Most of us fair game to go mid to upper 50s all across the board. Now let's look beyond tomorrow. We look okay for Thursday with the jet stream still close by, not just to the north. Another day in the 50s as a result. Then Friday, that next wave coming our way from the northwest. A lot of cloud cover, maybe a few showers late in the day. That'll drop us back into the 40s. But then as the system itself now wants to track on top of the region, you can see how the rain will switch over to snow as the temperatures drop as this front passes on through. We still got plenty of time to watch it, though, but definitely the snow chances want to ramp up a bit as we go into Saturday. So 56 tomorrow, 55 Thursday, 48 Friday. And as the temperatures drop, as the system rolls in, the rain chances will eventually switch over to snow. And at least we'll dry out by Sunday, though, so it won't be a complete downer of a weekend, but it'll be 37 with sunny skies Sunday now.
Yeah, it's kind of typical, I guess, for this time of year.
Pretty much.
Thanks, Nick. An organization in Joplin is getting some big bucks for its mission of helping families in crisis. Chick-fil-A announced that Watered Gardens Washington Family Hope Center will receive $125,000 as a recipient of a True Inspiration Awards grant.
So we're excited to finally tell the community we won $125,000. So that's going to help us renovate the upstairs and the whole block really that the Washington Family Hope Center sits on. Primarily though so that we can create more family units for moms and their children in crisis.
The Washington Family Hope Center says it'll also use the funds to provide food, shelter, clothing, job counseling, and more. Coming up, a listing of the most desirable jobs. First, though, we recognize a local veteran of the Vietnam War. Gary Garrison served in the U.S. Army from 1971 to 75, including time in Vietnam. The Iola, Kansas native received a Purple Heart. And we're proud to salute Staff Sergeant Gary Garrison, a four-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says high inflation is a serious threat to the Fed's goal of helping put Americans back to work, and that the Fed will raise rates more than it now plans to, if needed, to stem surging prices. Powell spoke at a hearing of the Senate Banking Committee, which is considering his nomination for a second four-year term. Fed officials have forecast 3 increases in their benchmark short-term rate this year, though some economists say they envision 4 rate hikes in 2022. This coming Saturday, Americans can be reimbursed for rapid COVID-19 tests. Under the new rule, the Biden administration is requiring insurers to reimburse Americans for 8 tests per month per person. The new requirement covers any approved over-the-counter rapid tests such as FlowFlex and Binax Now. With millions of Americans quitting their jobs recently, there's a new list of where they could land next. U.S. News & World Report is out with the top 10 jobs for 2022. And as Naomi Ruckham explains, healthcare and tech dominate the list.
The threat of a cyber attack haunts companies around the world. Brian Rozak works for the security firm Optiv and helps businesses shield their networks from hackers. And what are you protecting against?
I'm protecting against 2 things. People making mistakes because technology is complicated, and attackers who want to do harm and steal information.
Rozak is an information security analyst, and his job is #1 on U.S. News & World Report's list of best jobs for 2022.
When you saw that this is the top job of the year, were you shocked?
No, I wasn't. We're seeing a tremendous amount of interest from new people trying to break into the industry.
U.S. News & World Report recognized information security for its median salary of more than $103,000 a year, strong job growth potential, and good work-life balance. Other tech jobs were also high on the list, but careers in healthcare took 4 of the top 10 spots, with nurse practitioner at #2 and physician assistant at #3.
They have lower barriers to entry than some other healthcare jobs. They don't require medical school, so you can start working much earlier.
When making their rankings, U.S. News & World Report balances factors like salary, unemployment rate, job growth, and stress.
This job is very stressful. You can manage it, but you never know when an attack could come.
But Rozak says there's plenty of job security in the security business. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
Other top jobs for 2022 included software developer, data scientist, financial manager, and lawyer. Final check of the forecast next. Up next in the CBS Evening News, how everyone survived when a medical helicopter crashed with a baby on board. Then on KOAM News at 6, more on the frustration with long lines for Pittsburgh students getting tested for COVID. Plus, an Oklahoma police officer narrowly escapes tragedy in a shootout. And the Chiefs head coach Andy Reid talks about their upcoming playoff opponent, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Journalists arriving early for the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing have been among the first to have their food served up to them remotely. It's remarkable. While noodles are a fairly conventional dish in China, noodles from the ceiling, not so much. It's kind of unusual, but that's the way lunch is dished up in the canteen in the main press center. The Winter Olympics will have stricter COVID protocols for visiting media, athletes, and officials than there were in Tokyo, so you kind of have to keep your distance, and I guess this is one way to do that. Beijing 2022 gets underway on February 4th. Kind of like a vending machine from the ceiling.
I'm just waiting for our turn to get any rice or noodles to come down.
I wish.
Yeah.
The weather.
Yeah, eventually we're not going to have any noodles coming from the sky, thanks goodness. How about goodness? But the weekend system, Friday, Saturday, rain chances start, then with dropping temperature Saturday, snow chances working in. We have plenty of time to watch that still, but we're dry for the next few days, mid-50s for highs.
0% chance of even scattered noodles.
Not even a chance of meatballs.
All right. See you right back here at 6. Let's make it a great evening.